Gurmian Magot Alaskian Corla Rish, and we are in the middle of a housing crisis, as most deputies actually will recognise, and faced with such an emergency, we need to use all the tools at our disposal to address the challenge across both the private and the public sector. And I'm committed to delivery over dogmatism, to boost housing supply and open up home ownership to a new generation of people. We need to stop letting one party's perfect be the enemy of everyone else's good when facing this crisis. Silver bullet fantasies and cynical hysteria politics do a generation locked in a rent trap a great disservice. I'm committed to using every single weapon in our arsenal to fight this battle and turn the tide in our housing crisis. And why is that? Because I want to help people to own their own homes at an affordable rate. To refuse to use the private sector would be fighting with one hand tied behind our back. Instead, we need to show energy, innovation, flexibility and commitment to get bricks and mortar into the ground. However, this morning's PMB, unsurprisingly, is deeply cynical, and it is a manoeuvre and nothing else, and has nothing to do with constructive proposals for the housing sector. It dedicates nearly 600 words to scrapping a scheme that has not even been finalised yet, with details of which haven't even been published. It's the approach of a party interested in manufacturing problems and not in providing solutions. The Dáil will debate the affordable housing bill over the coming weeks, including this element, the shared equity scheme, and Sinn Féin and others will have a chance to put forward amendments at committee stage. If that party was interested in solutions, they would use that opportunity, but instead of allocating their private members' time to putting forward practical legislation, they'll use it for hysterical politics. That is their defining characteristic. And this type of politics is particularly depressing in face of the sheer scale of this housing crisis. And let me remind deputies, home ownership levels in Ireland have fallen from highs of 82% in 1991 to below the EU average today. And we need to address that, and we need to give a whole generation of people an opportunity to own and to buy their own home at an affordable rate. We need new approaches. And that's why our affordable bill and the Land Development Agency bill is so important. And only time will tell if Sinn Féin will actually support those tangible measures to help us get through this crisis, or will they, as they usually do, just oppose it? We need to use short-term measures to boost supply, while other supports, such as direct state build of affordable homes, comes on stream. But this equity scheme has three main aims. It's to boost supply, it's to bridge the affordability gap, and it's to support jobs and economic recovery. The scheme involves the state taking approximately 20% on an average in any new build, subject to regional price caps, while a deposit and mortgage is taken out in the rest. And the equity stake itself is free for the first 5 years, with modest fees applying after that. 75 million has been put aside, with potential additional funding to reach the aim of supporting approximately 2,000 homes and 2,000 individuals this year in the next 12 months, people who are caught in the rent trap, people who I won't abandon, and people who I and this government want to help. So let's put the idea into perspective. It forms one part of the four-pronged approach in the affordable bill, which, working in tandem with the Land Development Agency bill, is a fundamental shift in housing policy. It covers our first national cost rental scheme, implemented this year, our first direct, local authority-led affordable building in over a decade this year, with prices ranging from 165 to 265,000. A shared equity scheme that will give individuals and first-time buyers a choice where they can buy this year, and subject to Cabinet approval, a newly expanded Part 5 to encompass affordable housing in new developments. So in financial terms, let's look at the 75 million. 75 million for those who are saying that this will ratchet up any house price inflation. Absolute nonsense. 2.3% of our 3.3 billion housing programme, and less than 0.7% of the 11 billion mortgage market. But it's 100% of Sinn Féin's interest in government housing policy. The details of the proposal are being finalised, but the equity scheme is living rent-free in Deputy O'Brien's head. It says everything about Sinn Féin's obsession with Trump-style hysteria, that Deputy O'Brien could compare an equity scheme that will help first-time buyers to crack cocaine and keep a straight face. I accept legitimate, constructive criticism, and indeed I actually welcome it. And any scheme worth its salt has to stand up to scrutiny and be willing to take on board improvements. The ESRI committee contribution rightly stated, and I quote, "The targeting of any credit market intervention is critical. To directly address those concerns, the scheme is targeted, time and finance limited, and subject to regional price caps in order to immediately activate supply, stop inflation and ensure realisable supply." The Central Bank noted last September in its meeting and noted the proposal as an abstract concept of the idea. But this scheme is based on equity, not debt, with no obligation to buy out, is not a second mortgage, and the macroprudential rules are fully protected. And we're continuing to engage with Central Bank on the scheme and DG Competition, and that work is ongoing and is progressing well. Ultimately, though, the reason behind the motion lies in Sinn Féin's consistent opposition to home ownership. They voted against affordable ownership motions. They've opposed the Help to Buy